Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the ADHD Reframe Project with me, Emma Craven, your host. And hello to our listeners. If you're coming back again, this is the 27th episode now. Today I am joined by Siobhan. So Siobhan, I couldn't say it twice in a row. Siobhan, would you like to give listeners a little bit of an intro to yourself, please?
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure.
Most ADHD podcast organisation ever. I love it. Love it. So I'm based in just outside of Winchester in Hampshire, but I've lived all over the southeast. I'm a bit of a nomad. Done some time in London. I live here with my partner, my 8-year-old, and 2 very irritating cats. And I run 2 businesses and a podcast, also most ADHD thing ever. So I coach ADHD business owners and also run a marketing agency. And I'm perimenopausal, late realised autistic and ADHD, and just sort of leaning into just being myself and finding my voice at this point in life, and fighting against the patriarchy and just becoming more myself, I think, than I've ever been, and encouraging people around me to do the same.
Pretty much my life's work now is turning up myself unmasked, and then supporting other people to kind of do the same in their lives, particularly women. So could you just maybe tell me a little bit about your diagnosis journey? Because I'm a late diagnosed woman as well.
Yeah, well, this will make you laugh. I'm technically still on the waiting list. So 4 years on the waiting list for ADHD. I just feel so fortunate that I have had the wherewithal and the resources to figure it out myself, because I know not everyone is able to do that. So I started reaching out to people about 4 or 5 years ago. My instinct was, I need to find an ADHD coach. I don't even know if they exist, but that's the person I need to find. So I found one. I actually, before Access to Work became such a nightmare to use, I did get a grant for coaching, and I worked with an ADHD coach. And honestly, that was the moment so many things clicked into place for me. And and then I never looked back. And then I trained as an ADHD coach and then realized that I'd kind of been doing it already. It's just I didn't realize I was neurodivergent and my clients didn't either. And then obviously, since I came out and told everyone, a lot of the people that I worked with previously piped up and went, "Oh, me too." We were like, haha, there's a reason we connected. And then someone said to me a while ago, I think the more ADHDers you meet, then a lot of them will start to realize that there's also autism there. And so the more of those people I spoke to, the more I was like, you keep saying these things and they also sound like me. And then someone said to me, once you start managing the ADHD better, that's when the autism comes out. And I think perimenopause for me was like the downward force that just unmasked everything. I did actually do a screening assessment with a psychiatrist because the autism thing felt harder to claim, I guess because it's such a broad spectrum of things, and because it was so heavily masked in me and so ingrained. It wasn't a full diagnosis, but he basically was like, he gave me the nod. So that was really helpful. But my thing is always, diagnosis or not, if you treat yourself as if, and it helps, if the shoe fits, then wear it. But yeah, I've been very lucky to be connected to a lot of really amazing neurodivergent folks who've shared their experiences and helped me figure it all out.
Yeah, and I think it's really important, because obviously in the UK, the waiting lists are stupidly long now, aren't they? And obviously they have been for quite a while. And I think that, yeah, even if you self-diagnose or you start seeing ADHD kind of turn up in your everyday life and you suspect that you may be, even if you're going to get a diagnosis or you're sitting on a waiting list, it's still a valid experience. You've still got lived experience in that, haven't you?
Yeah. But I mean, I know it's a hot topic, but for me, I guess it's also about the perspective. So I've always been the sort of person that wants to understand myself better and wants answers. Um, big lol. Makes sense now. So I will always use these things as a way to understand myself better and live differently. They're not a label for me. They're not an excuse. They're just a way of seeing myself and making sense of my experience. And I think the thing about ADHD particularly, I've definitely been much more on that scale, much more chaos.
Yeah.
Addiction, dropping bombs in my life, like everything was drama, everything was up and down. And I never understood why. And like people around me would just be like, what, but why do you keep doing these things? And I was like, I don't have an answer. I don't understand why I can't be an adult. And I'm in terrifying amounts of debt and I can't ever seem to stop smoking or stop getting really drunk, or like I don't understand why I'm either flying at work or failing. Like what are you all doing that I can't do? And then I just carried around all this shame for so many years. And the ADHD thing was like the first thing that helped me make sense of it all and go, oh, if you see your life as one long hunt for dopamine, suddenly it makes sense. And then I could let go of the shame, and honestly being able to not feel shame for all of those awful decisions and awful choices has been so liberating. And then I'm like, well then I don't care if I get a diagnosis or not, because if it's allowed me to live better and probably have better impact on the people around me rather than just being like a walking shit show, then who cares, you know?
Yeah, welcome to my world. But yeah, I mean, one of the main things that you just said then is that it wasn't an excuse. Like I don't like there are things in my daily life that I do find really challenging, but I try not to kind of make them as an excuse because although I am diagnosed with ADHD, um, and definitely got autistic traits, although definitely kind of are mostly ADHD. But I've also been diagnosed with complex PTSD, depression, anxiety, fibromyalgia, lots of just,
Hmm.
people used to say you're medically complex medical, and I'm like, no, medically interesting. Kind of just trying to kind of, rather than kind of for me, I don't know, I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent here, which happens regularly, I'd like to just say.
Yep.
But he's just trying to flip that negative into a positive for me all the time. And don't get me wrong, there are still times when I can't do it because I just can't. I just get into a really dark headspace and
Yeah.
I just need to allow myself to be able to go through that. And then once it starts lifting, then you get on. Um, got excuses. There you go. So you can look back, even if you never get a diagnosis, but you definitely know, or you know that you've got ADHD, like yourself. I really find it difficult that people use that as an excuse to not be able to get on and do things. Or even just, oh no, yeah, I do that because of the ADHD. There are certain things that we both probably do that we do because we've got ADHD, but it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing, and it doesn't mean to say that we can't do them things. So that just drives me mad when it's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't do that because you've got ADHD. No, you actually can do that better, probably because you've got, and I can't think of a thing to kind of to say right now. Example, that's it. See, I forget words because I've got ADHD, but they always come. It just takes a few
Yeah.
minutes for it or a second to come.
Yeah.
But
No, you're
yeah,
spot on. Like, it's just that sometimes we need to do things differently. And like one of my things is making phone calls. Just, and I real but being able to understand that as like the autistic part of my brain doesn't know what's going to happen and feels unsafe. Like I don't know whether I will get through, and I don't know who I'll be talking to, and I don't know, there are just so many. It's not just a phone call. Like if I've got to book a doctor's appointment, I've then got to coordinate with my diary and think about, does it fit in with the school run, and does it fit in with my calls? And oh crap, I forgot to add travel time, and I magically think I can finish a meeting at 12 and then be somewhere that's 10 minutes away for a doctor's appointment. I did that recently. Yeah, it's nothing is just. Like just is a word that I always challenge my clients on in coaching, because they're like, oh, it's just a thing. I'm like, no, it's not. That thing, if you break it down, has probably got about 7 steps, and they all have dependencies on other things. And if you have challenges with executive functioning, of course that suddenly feels overwhelmingly difficult. That because your brain is processing it differently, it's seeing it differently, and then just generating a bunch of unpleasant feelings. And then, of course, another thing that comes up a lot is the whole demand avoidance thing. So yeah, as soon as anything feels too heavy or suddenly it's the inexplicable rage. It produces rage in me. I think it used to produce shutdown, and now it's just, and sometimes that demand could be my poor husband just being like, what do you fancy for dinner? And if my nervous system perceives that as a demand, because I'm like already 1% battery, I can be quite unpleasant. But again,
sorry, I'm laughing, but I'm only laughing because I do it as well. So if the watchers are watching the video of this, I'm not laughing because this is a bad thing or a good thing. I'm laughing because I do that as well. Sorry, Siobhan, I completely interrupted you then. But
you're like relatable. But yeah, but to your point earlier, I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm using that to figure out why I do that, and then I'm having those separate conversations with my partner to go, listen, if I say I'm on 1%, please don't talk to me about what's for dinner. Just put food in front of me. Even if it's not what I want, that's on me. I'll deal with that. But just see where I am and don't. But unfortunately, his love language is talking about what's for dinner. And sometimes I'm like, I cannot just, yeah, I'm already hangry. Like, just feed me. But I try to communicate my needs, and I try to communicate this is what to watch out for with me, because it's not an excuse, but also it's just a reason, and then we can figure out different ways of working with each other. Yeah, but yeah, anything that's even close to small talk for me, I just can't. I can't anymore. So done with it.
yeah, no, it's almost painful. Like I literally cannot. I don't. I just can't. It doesn't. Like, and now I just say to people, like if it's someone I'm meeting, a neurotypical person I'm meeting maybe for the first time, or someone that I don't know whether they've got whether they're neurodivergent or not. I will say to them literally, I don't do small talk. It's almost physically painful for me to do it, and I never know what to say because I'm going to ask you, oh, how are you? And you're going to tell me you're okay, and I'm going to look at you and say, no, you're not, because I can pick up even on a virtual conversation video thing that I can tell you're not okay, but so then I want to know why are you not okay and why are you telling me you are. So now I just say to people like I can't. The small talk, it's painful. I can't. Just please don't. No, either tell me exactly how you are, or let's just not ask that question.
Yeah. There honestly, there are like, I would say probably about 60%, 60 to 70% of parents in my kids' year at school that I've probably not said one word to. I've got my safe people who are, funnily enough, all neurodivergent. Some of them know it, some of them don't. But I've got my safe people, and if I don't spot a safe person, I just don't talk to anyone. And because I can't entertain surface level chat slash the people who just want to talk about their children. Like, I love my son. He is everything to me, but he's not everything about me. I have a whole work identity, you know. I would lay down my life for him, but also I do other things, you know. There are lots of different things about me, and yeah, I think that's like a version of small talk, isn't it? It's like info dumping about your kids to the nth degree that I've never been able to get on board with it. I suppose it's like any topic of conversation. After a while, you'll lose the novelty, and your ADHD brain will be like, okay, so what's next? And also, we talk in circles, don't we? And tangents, and we make connections, and we can go from like small thing to something existential and come back again. I know that if I talk to someone whose brain doesn't work like that, they probably just find me really weird and overwhelming. And I've like overshared something deeply personal, and then they don't know what to do with me. So yeah, I just don't really go there anymore.
Well, you just get a really strange look on their face, and they're
Yeah,
like, and they don't know what to say. And then I'm like, oh no, I've done it again. So
yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah, I
better
just don't
to,
put myself in those situations because I'm like, I've spent my whole life feeling like the weird outsider. I used to have these delusions that everyone else in the world was a robot and I was the only human when I was a teenager. Like, genuinely, I thought I was living in the Truman Show. I don't want to be in that. I want to find my fellow weirdos now, where we're the normal, you know. Um, but yeah, it's got so bad now that I just, like you, I can't even fake it anymore. I can't. I'm like, well, I'll just sit and say nothing then.
yeah. Yeah, and specifically if it's a person that I don't know or I've never met before or never kind of seen before. Obviously, you're talking about the school mums, but kind of in my everyday life, if it's someone that I've not spoken to before, not met before, not seen before, then I'll go mute and I can't talk. And I know that I can come across a little bit kind of I don't know, maybe rude at times because
Yeah,
even if people try and, speak to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm good, thanks you. And that's it. That's all you get out of me. And it's like, but it's like I just can't. And it's something that I've always never been able to do. Like I've got so much to say when there's novel interest, which is mainly just ADHD now. Um, and apart from that, it's like I I can't. I just yeah. And the older I've got, the more I've sat here and thought, do you know what? All them years of masking, all them years of kind of small talk, all them years of basically trying to be anything but myself. I just don't want to do that anymore. I can't be bothered. It's exhausting masking, isn't it? Like, sorry, but I turned 50 last year, and I'm just no, I'm not doing it anymore. I can't be asked. I'm sorry, but I can't be asked. So, take me as I am, or I'm literally just gonna watch, or you can watch me and I'll walk away because it's just no, thank you. No, no more girl power and all that jazz.
yeah, yeah.
So that was a little bit of a rant, but yeah.
Love it.
So, yeah, school. How have you found being a parent,
Oh my
a
god.
neurodivergent parent?
I
Because I
don't know
know
if
it
we've got.
can
I
be.
don't know if we've got time for that.
I mean, you don't have to tell me. I can ask you a different question, but
I'll try and do the short version.
okay.
I obviously, how old was think my son was about 2 or 3 before I started to realise about ADHD. It was like all the people talking about it in lockdown. Me and my friend would send each other memes and be like, ha ha, this is us. And then at some point it was like, maybe not ha ha, like I think this might be us. And obviously then I found the ADHD coach and that whole path happened. But just before that, I discovered the highly sensitive personality type, read Elaine Aron's book. And I kind of think it's all the same thing. So that high sensitivity is found in 20% of not just humans, but populations of other animals, which sort of makes sense to me. This is such a tangent. Haha.
No.
It sort of makes sense to me that like a small percentage of your herd or your pack would be more sensitive to sounds and smells and patterns and weather. And they'd be the watch outs, like, oh, there's a tribe of people coming over a hill 10 miles away, you know? And that sort of framing really helped me understand myself, my partner, and my kid at the time. And that was the first like sense of getting answers that I'd had. But in lockdown, I lost all my clients. I hadn't been in business even a year by that point. And I suddenly was thrown into full-time parenting, which is something I never I take my hat off to people that do it. I don't know how they do it. It was just never me. That I was never going to be that person. Like it is really important for me to have an identity outside of being a parent. But yeah, my son I think he was old enough to get that something awful was happening during lockdown, and he kept seeing me just burst into tears. And obviously we suddenly weren't seeing anyone and wasn't going to nursery. But he was 2, but he wasn't old enough to articulate that or understand it or be able to deal with big grown-up concepts. And he just went full rage. And he'd always been very tricky, but he just it was a lot. And then I did what I always do. I worked with a coach, and she helped me understand that because I had an awful childhood, I had no template for parenting, and I had to create one from scratch. And the parenting I was doing was what I thought I should be doing, but it didn't align with my values. And then I discovered all the gentle parenting stuff and the conscious parenting and intentional parenting and cycle breaking. And then, yeah, basically becoming a parent has allowed me to like heal more than all of the therapy and counseling and coaching I've done put together. And it really matters to me that I do it consciously and intentionally. And it really matters to me that I treat him like a full person who deserves my respect, but also not a small adult, because his brain is still growing. And we don't do punishments. I don't take things away. We don't do bribes or threats. We've never done anything like the naughty step. I don't shout at him. And we have a wonderful relationship, and he is a wonderful kid. And I feel like he is the test case for all the things I believe about how we should be raising children. And he's not an easy kid. He's never been an easy kid. He's always the one that wants to challenge boundaries. He's a proper little firecracker, but I still didn't have to do any of those things. You know, I've just treated him with respect. I set boundaries. I think that's sadly the thing that people have gotten wrong about gentle parenting. It's not about being gentle. Like sometimes it's brutal because you have to say no to your kid and know that you're going to make them cry because you have to hold a boundary. But yeah, he's just wonderful. And yeah, like just a privilege to watch him growing up. Like he's now sweary and sarcastic and silly, just with me, not at school. We made a pact about that. But yeah, we just have so much fun, and I love it. And I have told him this was not my experience growing up. Like I'm giving you a different experience. So yeah, it's been amazing. Absolutely brutal at times, but overall, Would recommend.
Is like literally, particularly I think because if you parent very differently to how you were parented, because I have and did, my daughter's 27 now, and a midwife, and she moved out of home a few years ago. Um, but my childhood was very, very different to hers. And although, yes, I'm not going to lie, I did shout when she used to misbehave. Uh, because and it, a lot of the time it's because I used to feel frustrated.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I had ADHD. I had problems with addiction, no substances, alcohol, nicotine. You know, there was lots of things that I could use as excuses, but I kind of chose in the last 10 to 15 years, I've chose not to do that with my daughter. I was a single parent. I was a stay-at-home mum for the first few years of her life. It wasn't easy. My daughter is very strong-willed, let's say, still very strong-willed and always has been. And the problem is when she was little, she used to give me that cheeky grin, and then your heart would melt. And then, you know, kind of, she's been quite challenging for me to put boundaries in over the years. Parenting an adult child is completely different to parenting the child, even up until they're 18. It's completely and utterly different. And I know there's not a lot of people that really talk about kind of how different parenting is when your child is an adult. And it's only because I can see a lot of my daughter is definitely autistic. You know, she obviously manages to work. She obviously manages like everything, but she's very rigid in her ways of doing things, and she has to. It's almost like that's her control on her environment. So she has to plan. She has to know what's happening. She has to know exactly how it's going to happen, and we can't kind of, you know, diverge from her plan. It has to be, and she's always been like that, even as a little girl at school. Like she's always needed the kind of, that's her kind of control, and that's not a bad thing. That's just because that, you know, that's how. I don't think she would ever get diagnosed. Um, and even a few weeks ago, months ago, she said that we went round there for dinner on Mother's Day, and she was cooking us a roast, and she said to my partner, and her boyfriend, like when she was cooking, oh yeah, you know, obviously I'm not neurodivergent, and and then everyone, all three of us just went silent, like we didn't say anything at all, and just looked at each other. And then she obviously, 'cause she had her back to us, she turned around and she was like, well, you obviously don't all agree. I don't know, I'm putting that super voice on. And I was just like, Ellie, the fact of the matter is, I'm sorry to say that you are neurodivergent. You're definitely autistic. And I would almost lay my life on the fact that um, you've got ADHD, because she talks about the internal monologuing and stuff. So,
Oh yeah.
but I just think, like, I think what she does is she's kind of using me as a template. So and she's just like, yeah, but I'm not like you, and I'm like, yeah, but you don't have to be like me to have ADHD. Like,
Yeah.
but anyway, sorry, tangent again. Um, but yeah, I think when we're raised in difficult circumstances, it can kind of be well, we can choose to either repeat the same patterns, or we can choose to break that trauma cycle. And for me, that was a difficult decision because Ellie got on really well with my mum. I have never got on with her. She doesn't like me. She's never going to like me. And I'm actually okay with that now. She's narcissistic. My brother's a narcissist. You know, they're in their little toxic, narcissistic kind of not self, codependency type stuff. So just let them, I let them get on with it. I don't have any contact with either of them anymore, but Ellie does still have relationship with my mum. And it's been challenging for her because I do say to her regularly, even still, you know, like, and over the last 10 to 15 years, like I just wasn't raised in the same way that you were. And I think now it's only now she's got quite a bit older, and she's got a bit more kind of worldly experience, that she fully understands what I
Mm,
actually mean by that. And I know
yeah.
that can only come from wisdom sometimes, but it's only been in the last 2 or 3 years that she stopped kind of pushing me to have contact with my mum. And it's not even mentioned anymore, which I'm so grateful for, because it's like, it wasn't an excuse, but it was just like, how many times can I tell you that you're triggering my CPTSD every
Mm,
time I even think about seeing the woman or talking to her or anything. The more that I've kind of explained my ADHD, explained about my emotional responses to things, why can't I answer a simple yes or no question with a yes or no answer? Why do I need to give you a backstory of
yeah.
like my whole life? Because my daughter can be very impatient, my partner can be very impatient, and I can be very impatient. But when I ask a question that requires a yes or no, perfect. But if anyone else, I can't do
Yeah.
it. It's another one of them things that's physically impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned about kind of parenting, but parenting differently to how you were parented. And
Yeah.
I think
And that's really easy to say, and I've glossed over a lot probably, but it's been really, really, really hard to do. It's been so good because I always say when you have a kid or when you start a business, because there's a lot of similarities, you basically make a mirror, and what is mirrored back is anything you haven't confronted or healed in yourself. And I, the mirror I made in my son, I did not like what I saw mirrored back at me. And and I faced into that. And a lot of people don't. And I don't judge people for that. I don't judge anyone else's parenting. This was my journey, and I chose to face into what I saw there. And we have an amazing relationship as a result that I hope we get to keep forever. Um, but it was really hard. It was really hard. And then also really healing. So yeah, it I always say as well that it's not about what you do in parenting, it's about who you are, who you show up as. And I do make mistakes. I mean, I raised my voice even just the tiniest amount the other day because I said there was raw chicken. Clearly, this was a trigger for me. There was raw chicken on the side, and he wanted to get something out of the cupboard. And I was like, "Can you just wait until there isn't raw chicken here?" And I turned around, and he was messing around with his food really near the raw chicken, and I was just like, I told you. And like, not a shout by any means, but obviously because I don't, that was enough for him. And I made him cry. And then he was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And then I was like, no, I'm really sorry. That was a me thing. My brain went to, you'll touch that, you'll get sick. It will be horrible to watch. And then what if I get sick? Because I can't stand throwing up. And so, but I sort of watched all that happen in my brain and then went, yeah, okay, no, yes, you should have listened to me when I asked, and I did explain why I wanted you not to touch it, but also I could have been a bit calmer about how I communicated that. And like for me, coming back and repairing is what matters. You will lose your shit. You will raise your voice. You will, you know, I've done loads of things with him that I'm not proud of, but I always come back and go, I'm sorry, that wasn't okay. And so he's actually really amazing at apologizing because I've modeled it and I've never forced it. And it's like, I really noticed that in the playground the times, especially he's much better now, but he's always been quite physical with other kids. And times when he has a tussle with a friend or whatever. And I go, right, what do you need to do? And the other parent is looking at me like, I want you to force an apology. And I go, no, if you've done something and you think you've hurt someone, you go and check in on your friend. You don't make it about you. They don't want to hear that you're sorry. And you don't want to say it, but you go and you say, are you okay? And then they tell you, no, I'm not okay. You pushed me and it hurt. And then you go, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I've allowed him to join the dots, but it's been really awkward because I've had the other parent looking at me like, why aren't you making your kid say sorry? And I'm like, don't believe in it. Sorry. um, yeah, that's actually something I've recognized about myself and I've eradicated is all the unnecessary sorries. Because, you know, as an ADHD, like, you can be forgetful. I really struggle with being on time. Yeah, there are loads of things. I mean, sometimes it's just for existing. Someone bumps into me and I say sorry, all that kind of stuff. And I've started saying thank you. So if I am late, just saying thanks for bearing with me, thanks for your patience, or, you know, oh, like, thanks for bringing this to my attention. I'd forgotten that I hadn't replied to you, and just thanking people instead of saying sorry. And it's made a huge difference because I feel like I'm not constantly apologizing for being here. You know, another random tangent.
No, but I love a random tangent. I think that's amazing. Just, yeah, because we do over apologise. You know, I apologise for things in the past that weren't even my fault. And
Yeah.
then unfortunately then with my mum, then she obviously used to kind of, that would reinforce the fact that I was the one in the wrong because I
Yes.
apologised for my reaction and she never apologised for everything. And unfortunately, I think because I did do that, that just made her kind of, she just would be, yeah, it reinforced the fact that there was something wrong with me
Yeah.
and everything was my fault. You know, kind of stepping out of that relationship, but also stepping out of the continuous apologizing has been challenging at the best of times, but also really empowering. So it's, for me, I just sometimes need to take a pause. I need to kind of see how I'm feeling in that moment. And then I need to kind of just process either what's happened or how I've responded, and then think about, okay, I didn't actually do anything wrong,
Yeah.
but maybe, and I know everything after but is bullshit, but maybe it's something I've either said or done has been perceived in a different way. So then I'll go and have the conversation with who I think I'm upset or don't think or whatever. And it's just kind of changing that narrative from, you know, I've done X, Y, and Z or Z, Y, and X, whichever way round. And then I'm like, oh my God, that was the wrong thing. No, it wasn't. Okay, maybe I should go and say apologize, or maybe it's like that in a
Yeah.
narrative kind of, and it's exhausting. So now I just choose to kind of, you know, be upfront, be kind of, you know, did I say or do something that upset you? If so, what? Okay, like exactly like you've done, you know, we'll just go and asking the person, are you okay? Like,
Yeah.
and then because sometimes I haven't even done, I don't do anything wrong, but most of the time, and it's like someone's just in a their energy's changed or the environment has changed or they have been, you know, because I feed on kind of, yeah, other people's energies a lot. And it's sometimes that I'm picking up on something in someone else that they
Yeah.
actually don't even realize in themselves. But that's not because I've done anything wrong. It's just because we're really intuitive.
Yeah. And you set off that your own rejection sensitivity, don't you? Like, honestly, the amount of, probably, I would say, every single ADHD business owner I have coached, we've talked about rejection sensitivity. Yeah, probably 2 or 3 times in our time together. And there's no worse place for it than in business because you send a proposal and you don't hear back, and that's it. Like, like you said, you've generated this narrative in your head that that person hates you and they never want to hear from you again, and you can't possibly follow up. And I always encourage people, and I say this to my son a lot actually, is it a thought or a fact? And if it's just a thought, is there an opportunity to go and get the fact? And like you said, so many times you realize that, like, that person was not even thinking about you. Or they're actually really grateful. I always say to people, please follow me up. I'll see your email, I'll forget to respond. Like, please chase me. I give people permission. And I do it with my prospects on calls. They so often go, oh, I've got a couple of things, but I'll get back to you. And I'm like, okay, because ADHD, I'm going to send you an email next week, just so you know. And, you know, and if you don't reply, I'm not going to take it personally. I've worked on that. But yeah, it's amazing how those thoughts can spiral, and you can really create a whole reality in there that just doesn't exist other than in your head.
Particularly when we grow up in either a traumatic or toxic environment.
Yeah.
And I think, I, I always kind of blame, I don't blame as in like, berate myself for my ADHD kind of responses or my emotional kind of hyperarousal or any of that. But I often kind of downplay the complex PTSD, and that's obviously a huge part of me, my mental health, my responses to things. And it's only been in like this year that I've started kind of looking at it and thinking, "Oh, maybe being I'm not being oversensitive. Maybe it's not simply just the RSD. Maybe they're trauma responses from my past. Maybe, there's a little bit more going on than I really kind of have ever acknowledged in the past. And I think it's really kind of, like I said, I loved when you said like you've gone on the journey of self-discovery. Like I always want to try and be the best version of myself, and I'm more than willing to put in the work to kind of grow and change and, be the best version of me, whether that's at university, whether that's in my personal life, whether that's as a podcast host, whatever. And there's obviously no kind of, there's no rule book or template. It's just I try and turn up as myself. But it's like I'm studying psychology, so I feel like um since I started studying, I've been massively gone on the journey of self-discovery, and I've discovered stuff about myself within my studies and within the topics that I've studied as well. Um, I've learned so much about myself. It's been really it's been really bad at times, and I've had to have counselling. Developmental psychology was one. Like literally, I no, I thought literally like felt like my whole life trauma
Mm.
smashed me in the face for the whole of that module. But I did it, and I got 62%.
Check you
So,
out.
although I needed therapy during an after
Oh,
during and
Christ.
after, yeah, I still managed to do it because. But it's like, that kind of, for me, my journey of self-discovery is just to kind of turn up, like learn about myself, learn about what my triggers are, learn about, coping strategies. Time blindness for me is huge. Like I can't
Mm.
work out how long something's going to take me, or, my partner will give me countdowns. So he'll say to me, right, we've got to leave in 20 minutes. Okay, on my phone. We've got to leave in 15 minutes. Okay, still on my phone, sitting in my pajamas. We've got to leave in 10 minutes. Okay, sitting in my pajamas. We've got to leave in 5 minutes. Shit! Why didn't you tell me? I did 3 times.
Yeah.
It's like that. And then all of a sudden, it's like that mad dash to kind of get ready and get
Yeah.
out of the door. There are things, but yeah, I just think I love your own guests come on and just talk about, journeys of self-discovery. How can you be the best version of you? So yeah, let me maybe ask you a little bit about perimenopause, menopause, hormone fluctuations. Yeah, please, if you want to talk a little.
Yeah. Well, you've touched on one of my special interests at the moment there.
Me too.
Yeah. So, recommended reading, The Menopause
I'll write this
Brain
down.
by Dr. Lisa Mosconi, busts a lot of the myths, especially the one about breast cancer and HRT. Whole generation of women did not get the meds they should have had. Let's not dive off into patriarchy right now. But yes, also just really fascinating about how the 3 Ps, puberty, pregnancy, and perimenopause, literally rewire your brain. And I now can see that pattern in how I've been feeling the past couple of years. I can see that when I was pregnant, it was similar. I just went off somewhere. I became really detached, and I wasn't part of the real world. It's difficult to describe, but I can also see that in puberty. So I'm like, oh, okay, this really makes a lot of sense. So that's like the science and the facts. The other book I found really helpful was Why is Power by the ladies that run the Red School. So they wrote a book called Wild Power, which is all about menstrual cycle awareness and reframing menstruation as this spiritual process that happens every month. They're like, if you've got a problem, bleed on it. And it just blew apart everything I thought about menstruation. Like, it just used to be this inconvenient thing, and I hammered in a load of ibuprofen and stuck tampons up my sleeve in the office and tried not to tell anyone how awful I felt. Yeah, unbelievable, really. So yeah, and then Wise Power is the follow-up, which is all about reframing menopause as this time of alchemy where your service to society is no longer in nurturing small beings. It's about alchemizing all your wisdom and being this person who can then support other people. And, you know, the second half of your life is the second spring. And I loved it. And they've got like a kind of map of some of the phases you might go through in perimenopause. And I found it really helpful as a checkpoint to sort of see where I am. And also that at every point there is some way that you can tap into your power. So yeah, it's a bit difficult for me because I had my son when I was 36 and I'm now 44. And I think there's like there's a segue point from postnatal anxiety and recovering from pregnancy that sort of segues into perimenopause, and it's a bit difficult to unpick. But certainly I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been bouts of really awful anxiety or depression, trouble sleeping, diet changes, weird patches of dry skin, itchy ears, it's weird things. My baseline has just been dropping and dropping and dropping to the point where I just couldn't cope with the world. So that the low point was we went to Paris last October and I just couldn't cope. I couldn't cope with the noise. I couldn't cope with the people. I went non-verbal like halfway through the day. I couldn't sleep. The brain fog was unreal. I was just like, I don't recognize myself. I don't. And people were like, oh, well, city breaks are overwhelming. And I was like, I used to live in London. This is not me. This is not. I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't recognize myself. I couldn't cope with any of it. So yeah, insert some executive functioning challenges. Took me 6 months between talking to the doctor and actually getting a prescription for HRT. Involved phone calls, booking blood tests on specific days. Yeah, things that I find challenging. I actually had a proper meltdown the day that I got my meds. Because I got blocked in by an ambulance and I couldn't get out of the car park, and I'd been waiting in a queue in the cold for an hour, and it was just awful. But since then, I've felt so much better. I sat in a cafe, I talked to someone the other day for 2 hours, and I was like, I didn't have to put my earplugs in. I'm fine. That moment was amazing. I've felt that I can do things again. I've felt like warmth towards my loved ones. Like we're actually in a room together and I feel things. I don't know. It's been amazing to feel like myself again. And then also I feel really sad for how bad it got. I don't think I realized. I think I just thought, this is who I am now. I can only show up for my business and my family and myself, and I can't do anything else. I can't have a social life. I can't go out in the evening. I can't do things in the garden. I probably unsubscribed from some things that I needed to let go, but I also ended up unsubscribing for a lot of things that I really loved because I just didn't have any capacity. So I'm now being choosy about what I put back in. But yeah, it's been really hard and really lonely and really confronting and really stressful. And it's, I don't know, I think it shows up really differently for different people as well. There isn't like a handy how-to guide, bit like ADHD and autism. Like you've got to go on that voyage of self-discovery and figure it out. But now I'm on the train of like, do not accept no from your doctor. Even my doctor was like, oh, you're a bit young. I was like, naff off. She would have rather. So the other thing that increased a lot over the last 2 years is my migraines. Just going through weeks of just non-stop. I'm at headache level, and like someone's perfume, or waiting 20 minutes too long to eat and I'll have a migraine. Like, it's been awful. She would rather have put me on antidepressants or beta blockers for my migraines than HRT. And I was like, I think I'll start with the HRT because the migraines are becoming pretty regularly every month. So I think it's related. And yeah, she would rather have put me on those than HRT. I was like, this is unbelievable. So I just pushed really hard for what I wanted and I got it. So now I'm saying to everyone, don't accept no for an answer. Don't listen. Yeah.
I mean, my journey to HRT is slightly different, but I did come up against, well, you're a little bit too young for now. And, they did blood tests and my hormone levels were fine, but the symptoms were just getting worse by the day. It was about 2 or 3 years ago that I finally got onto HRT, and I'd been on the ADHD meds by then for like 4 years. And so I'd become calmer, calm as you can be when you've got ADHD. My diplomacy was there. I had lots of compassion, lots of empathy. Like I was just, and then it was like slowly over. 1 or 2 years where I didn't even see it in myself. It was only my partner and one of my friends who was already in the menopause kept saying to me over and over again, like, why are you so angry? Why, what's going on? And it was only because both of them said to me on separate occasions, like over and over again, like, you need to go and see the doctor. This is not normal. You've almost had a personality transplant. And I've gone from kind of being this really nice, diplomatic, kind, generous person to being a raging fool. And literally the same as you, like migraines, just overstimulated, oversensory
Yes.
overload, a lot of some, and this is something that's not really mentioned when anyone talks about menopause, whether you've got ADHD or you're neurodivergent or not. So suicidal ideation, like the thought of suicide feels better and sounds better than actually trying to kind of work out what's going on for you or trying to get help. And it's just like, almost feeling like I was literally losing my mind, like, and I didn't realize how bad it was um, until I went to the doctors 2 or 3 times and finally saw a lady doctor, and she put me on HRT there and then. And this all started when I was 40. So I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 43, and then yeah, it just got so much worse to the point where, even now, still, it's like I don't see it in myself, and it takes my partner to point it out to me. Uh, but it is a difficult conversation to have, and I'm sure that again, like the HRT that they put me on, I think I need to go back and speak to the doctors again because it doesn't really seem to be as effective as it was in the beginning. So yeah, I had a guest last week or the week before who had been back to the doctor several times and their HRT had been increased. And apparently this is a normal thing that happens. You need to go
Yeah.
back and other countries also do for ADHD women. They look at the increase in the ADHD medication during perimenopause and menopause. But unfortunately, that's not happened for me. They're just like, no, you've got the meds and the HRT, and it's a battle that I'm just not willing to have at the moment because it's just exhausting. Um, but yeah, there's lots of women that I do know that really struggle during perimenopause and menopause. So it is, yeah, I do like it's a bit
Yeah.
of a special interest of mine as well. So
And it's so sad, like your experience, sadly, like, is really common. that's what really pisses me off, is like I hear stories like yours and it breaks my heart. And then I think, but that's like the millionth story like this I've heard. Like, why are we failing women so badly in this area? I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the people with the wildest perimenopause rage were just locked up. You know, that's not that many years ago. I think like the lack of understanding and the lack of support, and then all these arbitrary, you know, like, oh, well, you're only 44, but if I was 45, it would be all right. It just, yeah, it's really sad how many women are unsupported and unheard. And then it's also, it just makes me white hot with rage that we have to fight so hard for the things that we need. Like, yeah, another way we're being repressed. And it just, but also we're missing out on, if we support women like us at this stage of our life, what are we then able to go and do in society? Like, you know, we're in jobs where we're genuinely really helping people. And, you know, imagine how much more of that we'd be able to do if we had the capacity and we felt supported and we had what we need and we weren't wasting all this energy fighting. It just blows my mind.
But yeah, it is. It is. I do like a good fight, not physical fight, but I generally do like, I love a campaign, or I'm very, someone called me an activist. My partner says you're a feminist. If that's the case, then I'm going to take that label, because I think, particularly with ADHD women, and girls, we're the lost generation, we're the hidden generation, and it's only been recently that we're just acknowledged and diagnosed, or getting diagnosed, or even understanding that we've got it. So then, unfortunately, because we're getting it later in life, the diagnosis, or waiting to be diagnosed, or realizing later in life, the perimenopause is hitting. And I think for a lot of women like us, the mask slips, the mask disappears, and you can't, like, that, high functioning, low functioning. I don't really like them two terms. I
Yeah.
think that they're just very, like, are you high functioning? Oh yeah, great, but you're low functioning. I don't. But I think we just have lived a life where we've just managed to kind of scrape through each day. And then all of a sudden, the estrogen starts dropping, and the estrogen is directly responsible for the dopamine in a woman's brain. And it's like, why can't we get healthcare in the UK, both things, because it doesn't exist. So what
Yeah.
can we then do about that? And obviously, neither of us are medically trained, but someone somewhere who's got a little bit of medical training, surely,
Yeah.
give us a little bit of, like, help us out. Just, it's, yeah.
Yeah. I know. No. I laughed when you said we scraped through, because like I know I present as like a reasonably upper. People often tell me you seem like you've got your shit together, which really makes me laugh because I really don't. But yeah, like I present as like a reasonably okay human being, but genuinely every now
Well,
and then I think about things in my life and I think it's a wonder I didn't end up dead in an alleyway or in prison, or like genuinely the near misses are so near. And I think like people don't realize. I think like some of the things I share about my past, people are like, what? Yeah, because none of it fits in a box. Like I've been homeless, I've lived in a women's refuge, but I've also been to like one of the most prestigious boarding schools in the country. Like everything is like up, down, around, around. Like none of it fits neatly into like, oh, that's a standard life that someone has. Yeah, I went from having my probation extended in one job, they want to fire me, to getting promoted a few months later. Like none of it makes any sense. Well, it makes sense when you view me as a deeply traumatized autistic ADHD with no family support. Then you're like, oh, that makes sense. But yeah, honestly, sometimes a memory will come back to me and I think, how am I like in a stable marriage with a child pretending to be a grown up? Like, how did I end up here? But it's what you said, it's that journey of self-discovery. And I'd say the one thing that has stopped me from ending up in the worst of the situations I could have ended up in is I never gave up on myself. Like there's always been this fire in me that life must be able to be better somehow. I must be able to improve my situation. I've just, I've never given up on myself. I think that's like the only thing that I can point towards is just always backing myself. Which again is not a perspective or that's not available to everyone, you know? And I'm really grateful for it because otherwise we would not be having this conversation. I would be a statistic or a newspaper headline.
Yeah. And I think for me, when times got dark in the past, my daughter was the only thing that kept me going. And it's because of her that I'm still alive, even as an adult. It's because of her. It's because of her. It's because I was desperately not trying to parent differently than I was parented. And I think, because of her, and she could probably sit and tell you, oh, yeah, this, that. Yeah, and guess what? You did this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So I wasn't the perfect parent, but I think, there, like yourself, there's been some really, really, really dark times in my past, particularly around my mental health, particularly around rejection,
Yeah.
even years and years and years before I got diagnosed with ADHD, drug addiction, which was always stimulants, which actually was, I mean, the psychiatrist that diagnosed me said that she didn't say that I don't have addictive personality trait. She just said that it's more likely that I had a dopamine starved brain that was looking for them stimulants. So then, because asked me, so how did the, because it was always speed, it was amphetamines that every day for as long as I could remember. And she was like, so A, what happened to you when you took them? And B, what happened to you when you got clean? And they're two very
Yeah.
big signs that
Yeah.
when I took the drugs, my head was quiet and I could get on with the day. And then when I stopped taking the drugs and
Mhm.
got clean, and was regularly going to 12-step programs, my brain was busy. I was angry. I was just felt overwhelmed all the time. My mental health got so bad. At 10 years clean, I was suicidal and just wanted to die, and I just couldn't kind of,
Awful.
and it's like, and then I'm trying to raise a teenager at this point because I got clean when my daughter was 7. Trying to run a house on my own. I've got my narcissistic family at me all the time, and it's no surprise that you get to a certain point in your life and you think, do you know what, you can all fuck off. I've had enough. I'm, I'm not
Yeah.
putting up with shit anymore. I'm sorry if you think I'm cold and callous and selfish, like you've told me I am all of my life. I'm going to be selfish now, and I'm not going to
Yeah.
ever talk to you again. It's as simple as that. But it's just looking back on things. It's not just because of the undiagnosed ADHD, but there's lots of non-linear kind of things
Yeah.
pieced together, can't you? And I think just by knowing that about myself, 'cause drug addiction is something that I was so ashamed of myself for a very, very long time after I got clean. And I think, yeah, just being able to kind of openly say, do you know what? That was a really hard time of my life. And yeah, I wanted to kill myself. I was desperately unwell mentally. And that was quite a while before I got diagnosed with ADHD. And it's, yeah, so I love open and honest conversations with other women who just basically say how it is. I may seem quite put together sometimes to some people, but probably not because I'm the most chaotic, insane,
Yeah.
bonkers, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really important to me to be real. And if anyone ever has an opinion of me that isn't true, I will say to them, like, that isn't me, by the way. Like, I was literally at, I'll meet someone at 11. I'll be like, yeah, at 10:58, I was genuinely calculating, can I have a wee and make a cup of tea and make it in my office in the next 120 seconds? Like I'm still living those challenges every day. But I have made a lot of changes in my life that have really dampened down a lot of the chaos for me and flattened it out. And a lot of it was about finding healthier sources of dopamine. So, like 5 years ago, I started cold water swimming. You literally
Oh,
stimulate your own endocannabinoid receptors. You genuinely get high off your own supply. It is, I just, yeah, it's changed my life. 2.5 years ago, I went sober. My thing wasn't drugs so much. Smoked a lot of weed, obviously, which makes sense. Quieted my brain in my
yep.
20s. My main struggle was money. Never got taught about money, never had any. My outgoings were always more than my incoming. And I would want that dopamine hit and I'd go and spend money that I didn't have a lot. And then I would just go and get a new credit card when that one ran out. And yeah, it was awful. And then at some point, a really kind boyfriend of mine made me call the Consumer Credit Counselling Service and they said, you should declare yourself bankrupt. And I was like, oh my God, this is really bad. Because I have I wasn't a homeowner until like 3 years ago. So I just never been able to do any of the adult things that you're supposed to do. And yeah, and then I got myself out of debt with some help from my next boyfriend's family, and then managed to get back into most of it again a few years later. I never dealt with the core problem, which was understanding money and ADHD. And when you understand all the things related to that, now I can see it and I can understand it, and I've been able to let go of the shame. But I now see it in myself, that little thing that bubbles up, like, oh, you want to go and spend. Okay, we're going to sit with that for a minute. Is that something you really need? Write it on the list for next month. Put some things in a basket online and then just dump it. Like
One of
I
my
found
big, yeah.
if I want to go splurge on clothes, I take myself to a charity shop because there's only so much damage I can do. And I actually now budget. I've got savings for the first time in my adult life. I've got actual rainy day savings. Never had any of them. So yeah, but it has been through that understanding of what's going on in my brain and that hunt for dopamine that I'm like, okay, we need to manage this in a slightly different way. And restriction does not work. Saying to yourself you can't, like that is like red rag to a bull. It just makes me want to do it even more. Yeah, that's been a
So
big
what
one.
about the cold water stuff? Because I mean, I see a lot of people on LinkedIn and they're like, "Oh yeah, do this," and that's it. And I think, what the fuck? Like,
I
no,
know.
thank
I
you.
used to be one of those people. I used to see people getting in the sea on Boxing Day and I'd be like, they're all fucking
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Um, but do you know what's wild about it is that it's the experience is not really about being cold. You only experience cold for about the first 60 seconds. And then after that, your skin goes numb and tingly and you just feel amazing. So everyone's like, oh, I don't want to be cold. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really about that. You actually just get really high and it just feels incredible. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like the river is my church. I have a lovely little set of swim buddies and there's different combos of people and we have lovely chats. Got a beautiful stretch of river to swim in Winchester. You get to see it change across the seasons. So you like this little moment of connection with nature. I just love it. I love it so much. I get so high every time. But yeah, I think that going sober, focusing on my nutrition, exercising way more than I have ever done in my entire life, and realizing the need for it. But these are all things that have actually quieted my brain. They've calmed the chaos. Um, Especially going sober, like I self-medicated with alcohol a lot. And I never had an off button. So people would be like, why can't you just drink less and be less of a nightmare? And I'd be like, I don't know, because I get no readout. A bottle of wine could not touch the sides one day. The next day it would result in a blackout and someone having to like fold me into a taxi whilst I shout at them. Like, I don't know. No idea.
Fortunately, that is a common theme for late diagnosed ADHD women as well. You know, I last week celebrated 7 years sober. I
Congrats.
started drinking, thank you. I started drinking again in 2019 and got into a domestic, coercion and control domestic abusive relationships, run up thousands of pounds of debt, and started drinking again and got sober the same day that I left the relationship. So that's like a double celebration for me. But
Yeah.
I think alcohol, particularly with us women, um, and particularly if we have young children, just seems like it's a coping strategy.
Yeah.
And it's just the easiest one, I think, that we can kind of
Marketing
hold at the
campaign.
moment.
That's a marketing campaign. The idea that created by the alcohol companies. I read this somewhere the other day and I was like, it doesn't surprise me. The only way to deal with being a mum in the modern era is that glass of wine when they've gone to bed. And I'm like, that is abhorrent. Absolutely abhorrent. Like, yeah, makes me so angry. But yeah, like the irony as well that you self-medicate with alcohol because you want to shut your brain up, but actually all you do is you exacerbate your ADHD. It definitely the perimenopause just I just couldn't. The anxiety. I felt like the most awful human, even just a couple of drinks. I felt like I didn't want to exist afterwards. And it was my 40th that did it for me. All these people, hadn't seen people, so it was just coming out of COVID. All these people travelled across the country to come to this big party. And I drank from about 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. and I didn't sleep. I was so full of sugar and adrenaline and cortisol. Like, yeah. And then the next day, my partner had booked a lovely day out for us all as a family. And all I could think was, I can't believe everyone came to see me. I'm the most awful person. I hate myself. I don't know what I said to people. I'm so cringe and embarrassing. Like, it was just, I think that was it for me. After that, I was like, I can't I can't use my precious time and energy feeling this awful anymore. I just can't do it. So I had 2 years of like I had a just have one rule. And I think that allowed me, that step down allowed me to go, do you know what? You can just declutter this from your life now. And I wish I'd done it sooner. And now I feel like I've stepped out of the matrix and I'm like, oh my God, how did I do that to myself for so many years? And how did I feel that there was no other way to live other than to just the idea that like we've all normalized that feeling shit the next day is the payoff for having a nice time with your friends. Like, what? How is that? How have we all collectively agreed that that's a thing? Another thing that blows my mind. I'm like, I can quite happily have fun with friends and not drink and still have a great time and go out dancing and not feel shit the next day. That's also possible.
Exactly, me too. Um, I think the thing with me was, I had worked in the job that I was in at the time for a while, and I'd always been a designated driver and used to go for the Christmas dues, parties, whatever. And then one year, um, so I'd been going on about the fact that I didn't drink alcohol for a few years, and then I got with this dickhead. And I'm sorry, but that's the only good word that you can say about him. And then I started drinking again. But I didn't really tell people that I was working with, so it was a Christmas party, and I didn't drive. Um, and I got very, very, very drunk. Um, at Jaeger bombs. I'd never done a Jaeger bomb before because obviously when I got clean in 2007, I stopped drinking alcohol at that time. I'd never done a Jaeger bomb, and I got really drunk at this Christmas party. And there was quite a few of because I worked for a housing association. There was quite a few of the trades guys that I worked with a lot because I was was the support worker basically that helped all the vulnerable tenants. So I used to work a lot with tradesmen. I'd go to tenants who were female only if they needed to get their toilet fixed or if they were like domestic abuse survivors and they couldn't be in the house and they ran with a man and stuff like that. I was the go-to person. I basically had one of the vulnerable tenants on my caseload, and that was the job that I did. So they all knew that I didn't drink, and a couple of them was like, "Do you not think you've already had enough?" But yeah, you imagine the response, can't you? When I'm standing at the bar and I was just,
Yeah.
palming them off. To be honest with you, after we got there, I think there was like they called it a champagne reception. It was prosecco, and we only meant to have one glass, but I had quite a few, and then I don't even remember. Kind of after being there for about an hour, I have no recollection
Awful.
of anything. Apparently, I was dancing and everything, and
Yeah.
I just like
There's nothing worse than someone else telling you what you've done. I like that literally still makes me run cold. That thought of how many times someone had to tell me what it's just the worst. It's
yeah.
so awful.
And I'm a very bad drunk as well. I always get quite leery when I'm drunk.
Me too.
I'm not a great drunk at all, and I'm just going to tell the story. Yeah, I came home. My partner at the time came and picked me up. He had to hunt with me because I did say to him, "I'm not going to get that drunk," and he had to get me in the car and out of the car, and then try and help me get undressed. And then I was so drunk that I thought I was in the toilet and I was in the kitchen, waiting on the floor
Oh no.
in the cooker. I don't know what I was doing. But I've got a new cooker for any of the listeners, but it is a little bit embarrassing. But do you know what? It's part of my journey. Yeah, I don't even know what I was doing. I can't remember. I just said that out loud. But that's kind of where alcohol took me. A
Yeah.
few years drinking again, went from a glass of wine on a Friday evening when you get in from work to pissing in your own car in the kitchen because you're that drunk, you don't even know what you're doing. Um,
Yeah.
and then having to buy a new cooker, bleach everywhere, and then not be able to go in the next day and then get into trouble because you can't drive, even though you said you promised your team leader that you would be in the next day. Can you just try and make it in? And I was just like, I couldn't. I was so sick after that I actually ended up in hospital, and um, because they thought that I'd had a stroke because I just
Jesus.
collapsed
Yeah.
um, and had been throwing up violently for over 24 hours. And I collapsed the next day, which I think was the day before Christmas Eve or something really close to Christmas. And yeah, I was rushed to a hospital because they thought I'd had a stroke. And it was all just alcohol. It was alcohol toxicity because I'd drunk so much
Yeah.
in a short space of time that it was, yeah, I couldn't
Awful.
speak. I couldn't. My tongue was all swollen. Like they had me in the ambulance and at the hospital within minutes. And then the shame of one of the A&E doctors asking my partner questions because I couldn't answer anything. I didn't even know what was going on really.
Yeah.
But the shame of
Yeah.
that happening and him having to tell the doctors that I've been out the night before and had a skinful and probably drunk much more than that I ever have done for quite a few years. And then the doctor saying, "Oh, it's because of that. That's what's causing it." And then that shame as well. And I was just like, "Do
Oh,
you know what? This is just no." And it was a few months after that I got rid of him, and then B, I got I got sober again because yeah, it's not like I'm not one of these nice, polite ladies that can have a glass of wine with your dinner
no.
and you're happy with that. No, I'm going to go out and
All or
drink day.
nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to get absolutely
Yeah.
smashed and not be able to remember what's going on, and I'm just going to cause havoc. So I tell you what, no, thank you. It's not for me.
No.
So I don't
No.
drink at all now. It's
No.
just
I've got to say I don't think I'll ever go back now. I don't know why I would. It just, yeah. I was thinking, do you like my brain was like dancing through all of like and there was a funny one where I decided to take the rubbish out when I got home pissed and I fell down the 13 concrete steps outside of my maisonette. And there was a moment where I tipped and I thought, you're going to fall down these steps.
gonna be bad,
Somehow
yeah.
I had a moment of clarity and I went with it, gave myself concussion. Um, and which was a funny one, but then there was a really bad one where I was with a group of friends, quite drunk, obviously not paying attention to my drink, called another group of friends, was going to go meet them, and I never showed up because I got spiked. So I woke up in hospital several hours later, and of course they just thought I was drunk, and I just thought I was drunk. So the nurse was really horrible to me, like, get out. Now that you're awake, get out. You're just like, you're disgusting. And yeah, but then I didn't feel right for 2 or 3 days. And then I realized, like, I must have been spiked. And I don't know how I don't even know how I got to hospital. I assume somebody found me passed out. I have literally no clue from leaving that bar to waking up in hospital. Anything could have happened to me. I literally have no idea. Yeah, it's horrible to think about. And then it's horrible to think about, there's quite a few of those experiences, some of them were worse, where that wasn't enough for me to stop because because I lived in London and it was so part of the culture that I just, even though something inside of me would have been screaming, I can't do this anymore, I didn't feel I could stand up for myself and say, I'm not doing it anymore. And that really breaks my heart that I didn't feel strong enough to say, this isn't for me. So yeah, it's been very nice to do that in later life and unsubscribe from all of that shame.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's like, the safe thing when we do them, whether it was me at the Christmas party or, you out with friends or just, the safety element is an added risk. And because we are very impulsive, because obviously the ADHD can make us extremely impulsive, which is not an excuse, but we have to be aware of it to kind of try and manage that. It's just an added layer of kind of something that we need to be aware of. And yeah, for me and for you, clearly it's just, I'm just not going to drink anymore. I'm not going to drink again. I don't even like it. Like my partner, bless him, that I'm with now, he, for Christmas, for my birthday, which is on Christmas Day, um, so he always gets me like a no secco, um, or something related kind of that's got no alcohol in it so we can still do a little bit of celebrating on the day and stuff. And my neighbours, we have like a ladies' night every now and again, and they always buy no alcohol, no alcohol free for me to drink, or I just drink squash or whatever. I don't mind. But yeah, it's nice when you can be supported in them decisions.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think for me with my partner, like he loves me unconditionally, takes me as I am, and he doesn't kind of. He's my longest relationship. Like I was just,
Oh,
yeah, I couldn't. My first experience of unconditional love, apart from my daughter, and his mum treats me like her daughter. So, I feel really blessed to kind of be
yeah.
to come from what I've come from in my past to be where I am
Yeah.
today. I feel really blessed. And that's the kind of with the reframe that I like to talk about. So yeah, we've been talking for quite a while now.
I know. And I'm like, oh, I think I might be a bit hungry. I'm like, oh, yes, because it's 15 minutes past your lunchtime.
Yes, oh, you like me? I don't like to put plans in place or schedules, but I need them.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
my
But
lunch.
honestly, like, I've set my body to just expect certain things at certain times so strongly now. Yeah, that clearly it was like, where's your eggs on toast? Come on.
Bless you. Well, I'm sorry for keeping you past your lunch
No,
break
no.
and,
I mean, I could
and
probably
getting you
carry
out of your
on, like,
routine.
yeah, another half an hour because, yeah, it's been such great conversation and like so relatable and so, what's the word? Like, it's just made me feel better as a person that I'm not the only person with these kinds of stories. Like, obviously, like, part of me is like really sad for past versions of us and everything they went through, but also like it's really heartwarming to know that there are lots of us and we can all normalize these things and make it okay for each other and get rid of that shame that we've talked about and not judge each other. Like, Yeah, that's what it's all about, I think.
That's the main reason why I set up the podcast. No, the only reason really is for us ADHD, diagnosed ADHD women, and men, but I focus mostly on women because I am a
Yeah.
woman and I can't talk about men's experiences. But yeah, it's the main reason why I wanted, because I just wanted to kind of just be able to talk about things like we have done today, and in the other episodes with all of the amazing guests that I've had, and the fact that I now feel comfortable to show up as myself, which wasn't the case in the beginning.
Yeah.
The podcast's only been going since January, the 1st of January. It's my New Year's resolution to do it. And yeah, it's only been going for a short amount of time, but yeah, the response has been huge. So yeah, thank you. I know you've gone past your lunchtime, and I probably could talk to you forever. And these are the kind of conversations that I really enjoy, which is why we probably could have talked forever together. But in the interest of your rumbling tummy and your schedule, I don't want your tummy to be rumbling for much longer. But yeah, thank you so much. I know the calendar invite, for whatever reason, didn't get put into your calendars. We were a few minutes late getting going, but it has been like such a pleasure. You've made me feel seen, you've made me feel heard, you've made me feel, um, yeah, just like these are our experiences, and this is how we're going to choose to talk about them. So thank you so much for your time today, Siobhan. It's been a real pleasure, and all I will ask from you when I edit and publish is that you just share it with your network.
Will
Um,
do.
and if you want to come back again, please do come back. So I love to talk and podcast. Um, and yeah, if any of our listeners, if any of these conversations that we've had today have resonated you and you'd like to reach out, maybe you just wanted to talk, you can reach out to either me or Siobhan. I'll put the link to the work that you do, Siobhan, in the episode description. I'll link everything up together. I'll put a link on my website as well. So yeah, thank you so much
Thank you.
for today. Thoroughly enjoyed every single minute of this conversation. So
Oh, me too. Thanks so much for having me. It's really nice to be the guest for a change rather than the host.
yeah, I'm the host, aren't I? I'm nodding. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not the guest today. Yeah. Well, I look forward to being a guest soon when you've got time
Absolutely.
to have me. So if there's any
Yeah.
other podcasters listening and you'd like to have me as a guest, I'd be happy to turn up and talk about these topics or other things. Um, Brian has just decided to forget the word I was going to use. But to our listeners, if you and followers, if you resonate with this conversation or you know someone that this conversation will resonate with, then please do share. Just so we can get the messages out there and continue with the movement of us strong, independent, badass women. And for today, Siobhan, thank you very much for your time and goodbye for listeners.